What's happening, guys? This is Mike's Hill Dragon Channel, and today we are going to take a look at a really fun comic, a kind of a weird comic. This was a promotional comic from DC and the people who bring us Keebler Elves cookies um, in cooperation with the President's Drug Awareness Campaign. This comic came out in the early 80s, like 82 or 83, and it is a promotional comic. It was for free, and it shows the Teen Titans tackling, for those of you who don't know, in the 1980s, PSA, public service announcements about drugs were all over the place, especially drugs. Those PSAs especially targeted kids and young people because people were very afraid that the youth was going to turn into a bunch of junkies. And it was a really big deal. Not only was it in comic books, it was also, Saturday morning cartoons, TV shows. Every TV show had some sort of special episode where they addressed drug use. There was the after school specials that were about drug use. There was the infamous one commercial that shows a dad confronting his son. He found his son's weed stash and he confronts his son about smoking weed. And he confronts the son, and the son tells him, he said, "Dad, I learned it by watching you." That was a pretty gnarly, pretty one. Now that it's pretty hilarious to look at. Then obviously there's the one with the scrambled eggs. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. So there was a lot of use of the media. Through, like I said, comic books, cartoons, commercials, TV shows, to warn people about drugs and their effects or whatever. And this one here, put out by DC, the new Teen Titans, who was, at the time, was DC's most popular title. And now this book here, it opens up with a letter from Nancy Reagan, who was one of the people that led the charge, so to speak, on the war against drugs. Now, obviously, the results and who actually won the war on drugs is up for great debate, but we're not going to get into that here. The effectiveness of any of this, we're not going to get into any of that. We're just going to kind of talk about this book and, kind of how absurd it is, how overly dramatic it is. But we open up right here, and we have this character. My name is Debbie O'Hara, and I'm 13 years old. I've taken alcohol, pot, hash oil, pop, and mushrooms. I've been using them for 3 years. So she's 13, and she's been using them since she was 10. How did I start? Mom and Dad drank, usually after my brother and I go to bed. Well, I took some of their stuff, and me and a few friends started drinking each day before class. Another friend was doing smoke and asked if I wanted to. I didn't at first, but then I said sure. I mean, most of my friends were, besides, everyone think pot safer than alcohol, right? Then we started doing other stuff too, and that's when everything went real bad. I didn't want to do anything anymore. Just hang around with my druggy friends. My mom and dad and me started yelling at each other because I didn't want to do anything at home either. I said some real bad things to Mom. I cursed her and called her names I knew would hurt her. I'm really sorry I did that now because I'm really sorry I did that now because I love her and Dad, and it didn't seem to matter much then. So that right there just sets the tone for what this book is going to be about. And then one of the unusual things about this book and probably the best thing about the most redeeming factor is the creative team from New Teen Titans, Marv Wolfman and George Perez. They are the creative team on this promo comic. Now, you don't see a lot of, when you see these promo comics, you don't normally see talent, the quality of Perez and Marv Wolfman on one of those titles. Normally it's, lesser knowns, but Marv Wolfman and George Perez, they were the creative team of New Titans, so they just kept the ball rolling with this promo comic here. Now, a lot of you might be asking yourself, who the hell is this guy right here? So, they could not get permission to use Robin in this promotional comic. So they had to create this character here. He looks like Robin. His costume essentially, super similar to Robin's, and his name is the Protector. And like I said, you see him here. He's swinging on a rope. He's throwing uppercuts. Just typical Robin stuff. So it opens up, and the Teen Titans, they're raiding this drug house, beating up everybody. These guys are going to run right here. Raven, who has like empathic powers, she envelops them, and she's super feeling, after she attacks them, she feels, says here, I feel pain, terrible pain. As I protect me, my body burns, the world spins around me, help me. So basically she's sensing this kid here who's overdosed here in the corner. So they find him, no mistake about it, he's in bad shape. We've got to get him to a hospital. No time to call him an ambulance, Speedy. Starfire, you got to fly him there. Just hurry, he's doing bad. So they go to the hospital where they drop this kid off, and Starfire, who's not native to this planet, she goes, you know more about these drugs than I do. If drugs are bad, why do kids take them? Lots of reasons and sometimes no reasons. Very often because their friends or older brothers or sisters do it. No one likes to feel that they're all alone, so they take drugs not to lose their friends. Raven chimes in, it is most difficult to stand up alone for what is right. Raven, you hit the nail on the head. Now, there was a previous issue of the Green Lantern, Green Arrow book where Speedy was a drug addict. That's obviously everyone's seen that Neil Adams cover of Green Arrow walking in and Speedy shooting up on heroin. So that's out there. Speedy has firsthand experience with drugs. So the doctor comes out and says, I'm sorry, the kid's dead. He overdosed. Changeling, Beast Boy, as you would call him now, he goes dead. He couldn't have been more than 14. Those drugs killed him. And then Starfire, she flies out on her own. She's very upset. These Earthlings, don't they realize what they're doing? She destroys the laboratory. Then the Titans run into the kid's parents, and they talk to them. And the parents, they say, you should have heard how she talks to. You should heard how she talks to us. Every word out of her mouth is a curse. What did we do to deserve this? So you're kind of getting a little bit of the parents' side of things right here, seeing how struggling it's been for them to deal with a child who's, has substance abuse. Then we have another little section here with another kid. She goes, my name is Anna Juarez. I'm 12 years old. I'm 12 years old. I've taken pot, hash oil. I don't know what that is. Diladuat? I don't know what that is. Cocaine, downers, and Quaaludes. I've been taking them for 3 years. So she started when she was 9. My brother Juan, he was the one who started me on using drugs. Now look at him. He's dead. I used to think like that wouldn't happen to me, but now I don't know. Maybe I could. Maybe I could die too. So you have these little inserts in here, these little testimonials. The Titans here, they confront these kids. These kids are friends of the girl who's in the hospital, and the kids are they kind of confide in Titans how fucked up their lives are and how they're stuck in junkie so bad and they don't know what to do. This kid here, he dumps on Speedy. He goes, Joe's right. Go back where you come from. You're nothing but big shot superheroes. You don't know anything about this. Speedy tells him, pal, you just made yourself a bad mistake. So now you get Speedy's his story about how he's got wrapped up in drugs. He says, yeah, they call me Speedy, and I guess I'm a superhero. I'm 18 now, but when I was 13, I was just like you. I was taking everything that came down the pipe. Pot, hash, coke, LSD, heroin, everything. So he tells his side of the story. And Raven says, your emotions are still in turmoil. Speedy says, yeah, I guess they are. I've been off drugs for a few years now. Though my body cleanses itself, maybe my mind still hasn't. So we go back to the hospital here. The parents are talking to the daughter who is in who's in recovery. This one kid comes in. He says, I can tell you who's selling the drugs and where they're at. Cyborg here, he kind of chimes in a little bit. He grew up in a rough part of town and he had exposure to drugs when he was younger in his neighborhood. He goes, when I ran with Ron's gang, I did some drinking, tried pot once or twice, but I was really into sports and I didn't want anything messing up that. Ron and the others were always bored and tired. They didn't care nothing but smoking dope. And when they said I wouldn't be their friend, if I didn't, I knew I made the right decision. So the protector right here, he says, let's go. We'll crash this place out. So they kind of make observations here about seeing kids. Some kids are really, physical, staying active. Other kids are just checking out, doing drugs, hanging out at the beach. Raven, she goes, how does all this help the children? It doesn't. It just takes the drugs off the streets. You see, it's taken me years to accept this. We can't decide for kids. That's something they've got to do for themselves. Then we've got another kid, and his story is about the same. All these little stories are about the same. Kids who start out in nice homes, or, not really, maybe not nice homes, but kids who start out and they don't have any intention in getting hooked up on drugs. Then they do, and their life goes down the drain after that. Like this kid says right here, I've been through drug detox in hospital 4 times. Was even up in the psychiatric ward once. Man, that was scary. What would I tell my younger brother to keep him off drugs? I tell him all about how sick I was half the time. How I'd wake up some mornings out in the woods laying face down on my own vomit, not even knowing how I got there. So all these kids right here, they're headed to the funeral. And they were talking about how bad things are. This one guy, he pulls out a joint. He says, hey, maybe if we smoke this joint or whatever, we can make each other happy and that'll take our minds off of everything that's happened. The Titans run into some drug dealers. They fight them. Destroy some stuff. Here we are at the funeral. The one kid's having a freak out. Mom and dad try to comfort her. Here's another kid, another testimonial. He said he got into it. My dad died when I was real little. My mom had to raise my sister and me. Mom had to work 2 jobs. I guess I didn't help her very much. I really didn't have many friends at school. I guess I just didn't know how to speak to other kids. Anyway, last year when I first got here, I met these other kids, but they seemed to like me, so I hung around them, and they're the ones who got me into pot. So you have a bunch of different kids, and you have different stories for how everyone got involved. Here the Titans run into some street corner dealers. They bust that up. Raven's talking to these kids. She tells them you should not only think about your future, you should think about what's going on with you right now. She's trying to talk to them, trying to explain to them, because she's an empath, says here, she goes, as an empath, I suffer your weakness, the physical and psychological dependence on drugs, headaches. Headaches plague me, stomach pains, cramps, anxiety, panic. So she's going through what they go through. Speedy tells these kids, look, take care of yourselves. Get into detox. You can do it. And all these kids right here, they're the same little kids that we've been seeing do these interviews or whatever. Come on, we got into drugs together. Maybe we can get out of it the same way. So basically, they're all friends. And they're all going to like this AA style meeting type thing. And everyone's sitting here and talking about how they feel. And that's been the little, these little cutscenes that we've had right here. Then, then right here on the last page, we get Ernie the Keebler elf talking to us. At this point in her life, drugs were more important to Anna than anything else. Have you ever thought about what things are most important to you? Well, thank you, Ernie the Keebler elf, for taking time out from making cookies to talk to me about drugs. And then you've got a couple other little pages here, like little activities that you can do. They have these scenarios about what to say. You fill out what you would say right here in the balloon if you were in the scenario. We found these pills in my mother's medicine cabinet, wanted to try some, and you would put down what you would say right here. Like you would put down, yeah, absolutely, let me get some of those, especially if they're free. And then you have on this very last page here, as the Teen Titans said, you just can't tell kids not to use drugs. Each person has to decide for himself or herself. We have to decide for ourselves too. So they have like a declaration right here that you would fill out, pledging yourself. I declare that I'm aware of the dangerous effects of drugs. I'm responsible for myself and will never use any unlawful drug. You can count on me to live by my declaration and share my declaration with my families and friends. So they got like a little pledge here that you would fill out saying that you would stay sober and not be into drugs or whatever. Join the President's Drug Awareness Campaign. We want you to be a hero. Stay drug free. So you got a really cool picture here on the back page of the Titans and Protector. Now Protector, he did show up in a Tom King miniseries, Heroes in Crisis. He was in there for like a page or two. I don't remember exactly what happened to him, but he does like a little interview with the camera talking about his challenges and being a superhero. So this is not just his first and only appearance. He does show up again later. But this is Teen Titans Drug Awareness Campaign, comic, whatever you want to call it. This came out in 1983. So I was 8 years old. I actually remember copies of this being in my school. And I remember I took one and brought it home. I don't know if I was supposed to do that or not, but it was a comic book with the Teen Titans on there, so I had to take it home. But yeah, these things were all over the place back in the day. So when people tell you that today's comics are full of political messages and the message has more to do than what's in the actual comic, just know that they were making whole entire comics full of messages back then, so it's not a new thing. But right now in 2025, it's kind of funny to look back on this. You kind of laugh at it, how corny it is or whatever. But at least they were making an attempt. They made an attempt to try to get this type of stuff out there, to kids and to get involved in them. How effective it was, who's to say? But if it even helped one person out, then that's all that really matters or whatever, But I definitely, when I saw this, I wanted to grab it and talk about it because it's such a trip down memory lane, and it's a kind of a relic of a different era, so to speak. So until next time, you guys take care of yourself. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Stay away. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.